So I do think in the MYRIAD study, it was the largest randomized controlled trial of mindfulness for 11 to 14-year-olds ever done. And it was trying to be a primary mental health intervention through the schools to reduce depression and anxiety. One of the decisions they made, they trialed a little program called .B in a study with 9 teachers who were practitioners of mindfulness and found positive benefits of .B on the students' depressive symptoms and other things. And so they thought, let's scale that up and do a much larger study to see if that works at scale. But one of the decisions they made was that none of the teachers who delivered that intervention could practice mindfulness. And so they actually had novice teachers implementing this large-scale intervention. They were not necessarily motivated to do this. They were mandated to. And the study showed no impacts. And perhaps you were aware of the headlines, mindfulness does not work for teens. And I think the study was excellent because even though it showed no results, it showed limitations of rushing to large randomized controlled trials and raised the question, should we do this universally everywhere and make teachers do it? And I think that approach, it has so much merit and it has drawbacks because it draws on a kind of medical model of testing the efficacy of things where sometimes we treat the treatment as a pill rather than the relational developmental view where this is a communal practice. This is something we learn from others, most of us. This is something that's transmitted across experts to novices. This is something that's done together. This is a cultural practice that has to fit with the rest of the culture in which it's embedded. This is something that needs to be thought about differently for a 5, 10, 15, and 20-year-old because they have different needs, values, and motivations. So I think the most important finding from this for the whole field takes me back to the question of school reform. How do we do this in a way, implement these in a way that's authentic? At the beginning, we want to put 1,000 lights on a hill.
Yeah.
As opposed to reach 1 million people as quickly as possible. So, and I know this is a tension I fight with my colleagues all the time because we need to change things and there's an urgency, and yet there's a beauty and an authenticity and something precious here. We should be going to places where there's already a desire and a demand for this and creating existence proofs of how in those places where there's already a receptive mode of incorporation for mindfulness, do you do this work? And there's ecological approaches like whole school mindfulness, where you're really starting to think beyond programs and practices to whole school change in terms of the DNA, routines, and rituals of school life. How do we integrate this so that we're kind of mindful people here, and this is a mindful and compassionate community of learning? I think without knowing the evidence, there's a feeling among my friends that that whole school approach, the ecological approach, which in some ways can encompass the other approaches, where the field is going, to be honest.